Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. Guess who caught the COVID and who tested positive this morning? I had some symptoms for about 2 days now. Yesterday I had to miss work, and I had a sore throat. That's really the most concerning thing, and then I had a fever at like 99.9. So, got a test this morning. Had to go to CVS at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., somewhere in there. So I had to get up at like 6 to get up there to get a test. Anyway, yeah, I tested positive. My wife did not. What? Anyway, so I'm off for the week in a not so wanted staycation, as my HR girl called it. So I'm going to be reviewing the Scream movies this week. I might have one more review for a movie I started watching before I realized that Scream 5 was coming out this week. I will not probably make it to the theaters to see Scream 5 unless I'm able to sneak in it sometime next week. I don't know for sure. Anyway, so I've got the movies right here. I actually have the first three in a box set, but I put it in one of those disc socks sleeves. I love these things. You can hold about 3 discs. Of course, I have 2 right here, 1 and 2 behind this first disc. You can't see that. Anyway, they have a cloth that'll keep these clean, but I know this one's probably going to get scratched up, but it's also Scream 3, so I don't really care. I like these. They're very thin. Really, really thin, actually. It's kind of hard to figure out what movie you want unless you have them, organized properly. And I just recently, for my birthday, got a Blu-ray of Scream 4, which I have not seen since theaters. I saw it when it came out, like the weekend it came out. I remember not liking most of these movies. I love the original that I'm currently reviewing, the 1996 movie. I just rewatched that this morning. And I'll tell you, Scream 2 and Scream 3 I've always genuinely just not liked. They're watchable, but I don't like them. Scream 4, I remember it being watchable, but I don't remember liking it. I remember out of the sequels, it's the best one, from what my opinion is, but I'm also a big fan, for those of you who actually care, of the TV series, at least the first 2 seasons that came out in the last 6-8 years, somewhere in there. The first season's the best. Season 2's really good as an encore to that. You only needed really 1 season for it. But Season 1 was fantastic. Season 2 is really great, if not also fantastic. Season 3 is when Queen Latifah got the rights. And from that point on, it just kind of died. It went into all these woke politics, and it got ruined. And now we have Scream 5 coming out. So, anyway, I'm a big fan. I personally consider the first season of Scream, the TV series, to be my favorite Scream thing. I know it's kind of a sin to say that, but it's really how I feel about this. The original movie, this one, from 1996 that I'm currently reviewing, is my personal favorite of the movies. I think it's a phenomenal movie. It's one of the best of the best of the best. Started this whole meta-thriller thing going on, as far as I know. It's impactful, it's fantastic, it's a genius movie. It is a thriller with some other things mixed in, but it's so great and it's so well done. Of course, the series is created by Wes Craven himself, the guy who created Freddy Krueger, or Nightmare on Elm Street if you want to call it that. Love those movies more than these movies, 100%, but he only did like 2 of the movies, So even so, he did the first 4 of these. The new 5th one he's not involved, of course, because sadly he passed away. I loved Wes Craven, even though I wasn't a big fan of his movies. Not a big fan of Wes Craven's movies. I'll be honest with you, as a horror fan. I just don't really find myself becoming infatuated with his work most of the time. I think he's a better producer than he is a director or writer or anything like that. Anyway, Scream, what is this about? We start off with a kind of prologue, but kind of not. Drew Barrymore is in her house, the very iconic moment, the very iconic cinema moment, of her hanging out in her house and getting a phone call, and somebody asks her about horror movies and what's her favorite scary movie, with this creepy voice. Man, I love that voice actor. He's so good. This movie is the best of the whole series. Hands down, no questions asked. I don't know how anybody could like 2 and 3 or 4. From what I remember of 4, but 2 and 3 I've seen over the recent years. I don't know. I don't see what the appeal is. I think they suck. Frankly, they have their moments, but they suck. The series overall doesn't really have the best gore or the best kills or anything. That's one thing I have a problem with, too. This one has the best, in my opinion, but the rest, not so much. The story is the best in this one. There is a person running around in a black outfit with a white mask. Of course, the fan name of him is Ghostface. And Ghostface is a killer, just a regular old human. And Ghostface is attacking Drew Barrymore in her house during this phone call. And it's a horrific scene. absolutely horrific. He ends up killing Drew Barrymore, who is a great actress. She was great here for the 10 minutes she's on screen. Very emotional hook, very surprisingly emotional hook for this movie to pick up on with her in this situation. Of course, she's also a high schooler, and we pick up the next day with following a girl named Sydney Prescott. Well, really the night before the next day. We pick up with Sydney Prescott, who is played by Neve Campbell, and she's fantastic in this. She's not amazing, but she's fantastic. It's really odd to say that she's not amazing, but she's fantastic. Anyway, I think she's really good for Sydney. I don't think she's the best actress ever, but she's fine for these movies. She's likable. I enjoy her. She's a pretty girl. And she's in high school. She has a boyfriend named Billy Loomis, who's played by Skeet Ulrich, who is phenomenal in this. He's so good. I love him. Matthew Lillard is also in this as one of their friends. They have kind of a friend group like every slasher has. Matthew Lillard, who played Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies, the live-action ones from when I was a kid, in the early 2000s. He's in this. He's also amazing. He might be my favorite part of the entire movie. Jamie Kennedy is kind of the nerdy character, the single virgin character. He's phenomenal in this. I love him as well. He's so funny. Especially when him and Matthew Lillard go back and forth so much. I love both of them in this. They're so great. Then we have, there's a blonde-headed girl. I cannot for the life of me remember her name. She's really good here. I like her personality. She's Matthew Lillard's girlfriend. And their little group go to a school that is principaled by the Fonz. Yes, the Fonz. There's also Courtney Cox in this movie from Friends. Of course, she'd been in Friends during this time. Courtney Cox is in this, being a news reporter, journalist. She's an awful, awful woman in this. Just an awful, kind of not very self-aware of what she does or how she acts to people. Apparently, when Sydney's mother was recently murdered in the last year, mysteriously, possibly by whoever Ghostface is, the way that Gail, who is Courtney Cox's character, handled that situation was not very appropriate. Sydney's mother didn't have the best reputation. Apparently, she was sleeping around a lot in the town, which may or may not be true. Gail is also writing a book about her. So Gail is just an awful person, an awful character. But Courtney Cox plays her. How can you not like Courtney Cox? She's just a great character. Her performance on the screen is good. I really like the entire cast. I'll be honest with you. I like the entire cast. I think they're all good, even down to the cameraman, Kenny. I think he's good in this, too, with his bag of Cheetos. Anyway, it's a killer, slasher, thriller, whatever you want to call it, and I love it. It's a meta-thriller, which means it kind of comments on not only itself, but comments on the genre or the subgenre, it being horror, in total. Particularly the slasher subgenre. It kind of focuses on Halloween and Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and all these other things. All these main slashers you hear. You don't hear like an offhand reference to like Pet Sematary or anything, but there's a lot of references to more mainstream things that audiences are going to get. It's a smarter film than most things that had come out at that time, in my personal opinion, from the horror genre. And I think it's great. I think it kind of is relatively responsible for maintaining horror's presence in the world during the 90s. I don't think it saved horror, like a lot of people seem to think, but I do think it helped maintain that name of that genre at that time in the 90s. I think it really pushed for that. It's excellent. I love it. I think it works so well. The music is fantastic in this movie. The directing is solid. It's not amazing, but it's solid compared to most slashers. I'm used to seeing the terrible framing of pictures in my favorite slasher films. You know, I'm looking at you, Friday the 13th and Halloween. There's a lot of cool little tidbits of trivia and stuff in here to try to play with these people. These cannon fodder, if you will. And I like the killer. Ghostface looks cool. He's spooky. Not as spooky as people tend to make him out. I don't know why my mom and everybody else I talk to that are in her age bracket talk about how scary this movie was back in the day. It has quite a few jump scares that I think are earned, like a James Wan earned, but it's still a lot of jump scares, man, to try to freak people out. But there is some good tension here. There's some good writing for the characters. I really like that. I think the characters are all well realized, which I think is a problem compared to Scream 2, 3, and 4 from what I remember of 4. But I really love the movie. I think it's fantastic. I think it has so much going for it. It has such a better quality of filmmaking than most slashers up to this point, in my personal opinion. It's so well realized, it knows what it is, it loves the horror genre and also makes fun of it, and I love that about it. It's timeless because of those things. And being a relatively newer classic in the slasher genre, it works so well. And like I said, the performances are pretty much great all around. I wish that Neve Campbell had more to work with as a character. She does well for what she does and what she has to work with. But everybody else, Skeet Ulrich, Matthew Lillard, those guys, Jamie Kennedy, Courtney Cox, they all just take over the screen. Also, I forgot to mention David Arquette. He plays the brother of the blonde-headed character in this film. David Arquette is a deputy, I think is what he is. And I think he's really good too. He's funny. He's just a down-to-earth, goofy little guy. He's Neve Campbell's best friend's brother, who probably always had a crush on Neve. We don't really know. But he's a fun character. I really like him. He works really well too. Another great addition to the cast I almost forgot to mention. I'm glad I caught myself on that. Anyway, when it comes to Scream, I don't really know what to tell you. It's a phenomenal movie, really great film. If you haven't seen this for the first time ever, you should watch this. Based on my recommendation and everybody else in the horror fandom, you need to check this out. If anything, avoid the sequels, but watch that one. And if you really like that movie, then maybe watch the sequels, but I would highly recommend checking out the TV series. Season 1 and Season 2, they really work. They have some great gore, the best gore in the whole franchise, in my opinion. They're like 10 or 12 episodes a season, but they're classics. You will not forget them. I wish I could get Season 2 on a DVD. Maybe I'll find it on bootleg or something, I don't know, but I want a copy of it for my collection. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I think it's one of the best slasher things ever made. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Scream? Do you love this movie? Do you hate it? Put your thoughts in comments down below, guys. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. I love it. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, Scream, the original 1996 film, would get a 5 out of 5 stars from me. I think it's just wonderful. It never gets old watching it. Just everything from the humor to the jokes to the commentary still develop. They still do well. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below. This is one of those movies I wish had never become a franchise. I mean, it was doomed to and it succeeded. But I wish it had never become a franchise. Kind of like with Sleepaway Camp. I like 2 and 3, but it didn't need to be a series, you know, just because of based off what happened in the first movie of that. Same thing here. You didn't need any sequels. The sequels are all weak for that very reason. You had a great development of it, and 2, 3, and 4 to me feel like bad versions of the original movie, you know? Anyway, that's my personal opinion. I'm going to start rewatching these and trying to review at least one a day because I'm going to be out of work all week because of, you know. Anyway, 5 out of 5 stars for me for Scream. What are your thoughts on this movie? Put them down below. Thank you for watching, guys. God bless you, and goodbye.